WoW Killer is a production of amove.tv. Check out amove TV for many more podcasts, multiple about Blizzard games. And for more of Taliesin's WoW coverage, check out Taliesin and Evitel on YouTube and twitch.tv. Welcome back, everyone. This is WoW Killer. I'm Garrett. He's Taliesin. And that's right, we're back. We are 1 week out, Tally, from the release of Shadowlands.
Less than a week, mate. This time next week, especially with the amount of time it takes you to upload these onto your favorite podcast listening channel. I don't know. I don't even watch it on the YouTube.
Also, the fact that we'll be recording it 2 days after it releases.
Yeah, exactly. This time next week, I will be playing Shadowlands, and you'll be all on like Discord going, "Hey, Tally, let's do WoW Killer," and I'll be like, just ignoring your call because I'll be playing Shadowlands because it'll be out and we'll be doing it, and I'll be all like, "Yeah, this is better than WoW Killer at last. Something to do on a Wednesday."
We should do something that you should never do, which is next week you'll just log on to the NA server and we'll just play Shadowlands together and attempt to record something resembling an audio podcast while we just play.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that sounds excellent. That sounds really good. I'm like kind of a live commentary sort of thing.
That sounds really fun for us and probably not the most compelling talky bits.
I mean, that would kind of be on brand. But my worry would be that I put a lot of effort into smiling when most of the listeners won't know this because they don't watch it being recorded live. But I do. I put a lot of effort into smiling for the people that watch this show. And that wouldn't work if I'm playing WoW because my playing WoW face is this.
For the audio-only audience, he is pushing out his bottom chin and wide-eyed, almost like he's trying to look like a Neanderthal.
I'm pushing out the bottom of my many chins. Happens to us all as we get older, my friend. You'll get there. You'll get there. But I will be playing a lot of WoW and it'll be great and I can't wait. And I've only got about 20 videos I have to make before then. And also, I've got a bag to farm. I've got Bagman to kill. You're lucky I'm here. Well, hang on. I need to go on the Wowhead and I need to see if I can even record this podcast because if Bagman is coming up soon, then sorry, but I'm going to have to leave you talking for a bit.
I mean, listen.
Oh, wait, hang on. He comes up again at 3:50 UK time. So I've got about 2 hours. That should be easy, right? And then I've got to kill Bagman, and I've got to get my bag.
Well, now you've made me go and check for me. Okay, it looks like it's not up until 4:50 p.m. for me.
Okay, so that's good. Because it's the only thing to do in pre-patch now. I've done everything else. Just got to get my bag. It's got 2 slots more than all the other bags I've got. Come on.
Taliesin, and that is unfair. If you were anything like me, and I know you're worse, you're sitting on like 5 fresh new 50s, and you need that ugly catch-up gear. You need
that ugly catch-up gear. They keep saying it's a recolor of the Arathi sets. And it's like, yeah, if you say so, mate. Yeah, all right. Like, this is a recolor of the jumper I've been wearing for the last week. Yeah, okay. You say so, mate. It's like, it's not a recolor of the Arathi sets. It's just the Arathi sets. They were like, tell them it's a recolor. Everyone will be too embarrassed to admit that they can't see a difference. And everyone will call it a recolor. It's not a recolor. It's the same set. Prove me wrong. And they're like, don't worry, they'll all have it in Ice Crown. And Ice Crown's got like a weird lighting effect that will make it look like a different color. So it's like, oh yeah, okay.
It's like when you go to the shop that closed within the last 6 months that's now a Halloween store. And they've got the different tiers of quality of costumes. There's the officially licensed Game of Thrones armor. And then there's the clearly Game of Thrones armor, but they're legally not allowed to call it that. So they call it something like medieval warrior man. And then there's the one that doesn't look like it's from any movie. It's just the most generic version of knight-ish armor ever. And they just couldn't be bothered to even try and legally loophole make it look like anything in the world. That's what the catch-up armor looks like for the pre-patch.
I appreciate the effort that Americans put into Halloween. Like for me, like the idea of tiers of Halloween costumes is outrageous. For me, if I'm buying a Halloween costume, I go to the supermarket, and if it's not in a packet, and if it costs more than £2.99, and if it doesn't have the word sexy in it, it's not even a Halloween costume. It's £2.99. It's sexy granny. Here we go.
Well, then you would like the American Halloween because 75% of everything in there has sexy on it. I mean, you could be sexy president if you want.
Wow. I mean, I would be. It's just that pesky thing of no one voting for me, but apparently that doesn't matter anyway. I can still be it. I can still be president.
I mean, you don't know who I wrote in, Tally. For all you know.
Is that what I did? Sorry.
For all you know, I voted
carry
for.
On.
For all you know. Well, folks, we are back. Seeing as we are a week out from the expansion, it seemed like as good a time as ever to see what you had to say. So this will be a new mailbag episode. If you want to write in and be a part of our future mailbag episode, you can do so at wowkillercast@gmail.com. And are you ready to get started, Taliesin?
Dude, never tell them it's a mailbag episode. Everyone hates the mailbag episodes. Now, like you'll see on the chart of the numbers when you're looking at, I don't even know what they're called, of the analytics. You'll see like at this moment in the recording, the numbers they'll drop. They'll go from 10
so here's
to like
the cool
4.
thing about podcasts, Taliesin. You don't know that because they're downloaded, so you can't tell when people stop listening.
Oh, right. Okay. No analytics.
So as far as you're concerned, I'm right. You're wrong. There's no way to prove this.
Well, okay. So listen, the great thing about a mailbag episode, which this definitely isn't, by the way, this episode is officially called Backstories, the Future of Allied Races, which is giving me a little clue on some of these questions that I haven't actually seen. But also it means we don't have to be quite so laser focused on some of the things, that we'd usually be talking about, so I can actually ask you about things that I care about. So have you seen the new cinematic trailer?
I have seen the new cinematic trailer. I
know we're getting a bit instancy here, aren't we, doing the news? But roll with it.
Well, hold on. We need to call Patrick, and he'll start telling us his opinion about Overwatch. How's that sound?
Okay. Very slowly.
Actually, this would be a great time for Patrick. We should totally get Patrick as a guest sometime because he is also EU and would actually be awake at this hour.
He'd love it. Yeah, absolutely. Get him involved.
Oh my God.
And it would basically be the instance, but with me instead of Scott Johnson. It would basically be the worst episode of the instance ever.
He hasn't been on the instance in like a month because we've been doing it in the afternoon, which is terrible for him. So this has just now hit me that we could actually legitimately have him on the show, and that excites me.
Yeah.
I saw it,
as
and
Chad quite rightly pointing out, we should call this episode the mailbag episode with 2 extra slots.
Oh, okay. I was thinking we call it
like you don't get the joke, which is weird because we were just talking about it.
We could also call it the unofficial invitation of Patrick Beja onto WoW Killer.
Mate, no one's going to listen to that.
No, they're not. They're not going to do it.
It's worse than calling it a mailbag episode. Don't mention his name. Just like surprise people with him once he's here, which he's not. Keep listening.
As to the new cinematic, I was very, very personal experience with it, which was completely unaware that it had dropped for like an hour. And then I just had a couple friends start texting me out of nowhere their opinions on it. There were multiple friends kind of messaged me at the same time saying, that didn't do much for me. And I'm just like,
I'm much more interested in your friends' opinions than yours, actually. Yeah, fill me in on your friends' opinions.
Well, I'm just informing you about how it came down because the way I was made aware of it was multiple people in my life telling me that they were unimpressed, but with no context.
Your friends are idiots.
Yeah, and I was just like, huh? What? Huh? Okay.
Screw your friends. They're bad friends. Get better friends, fam. Get better friends. What idiots?
And this is important because
those are friends that you've told me you think are idiots before anyway. They don't listen to the show though, so it's fine.
No. But this is important because it made me go in with really low expectations. And then I started watching and I was like, wait, what? I'm like watching the cinematic cascade over me and I think to myself, how could you not be excited about this? And then it hit me. I was like, oh, I guess it didn't have much story. I think to a certain degree, expectations have been set that the cinematics are going to get across a good bit of story, of lore. And I can understand that. That being said, Taliesin, and everything I just told you being said, I dug how kind of like old school World of Warcraft it was. To me feels like it would have been the cinematic for Shadowlands back in 2007. Mm-hmm. Because let's visit all the zones and let's just show the big major players in every zone, but not have like some through line, wonderful, awesome lore fest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that calling it a cinematic is probably quite inaccurate anyway. And I think that's one of the problems that we've got with this is that people are referring to it as a cinematic. And I don't think that's really fair because, we associate the term cinematic with something else now. We associate the term cinematic with an in-game narrative kind of event, like, or forwarding of the narrative or introduction of a character or something. And that's not what this was. This was very much a trailer. And that's why it reminded you of old school WoW stuff because it most closely resembled the vanilla trailer, really, like the
vanilla
original
NBC.
World of Warcraft trailer. And I think that's on purpose as well. I mean, there's some the Winter Queen in it when she rather dramatically sways her cape and moves off screen like some kind of like vaudevillian villain, and then the Maldraxians guy kind of lifting his axe and beckoning his forces forward and things like that. I mean, those are moves lifted straight from the vanilla trailer. I think it's like very explicitly referencing moments in the vanilla trailer, and likewise when the Winter Queen is looking out over Ardenweald and things like that. So I think that calling it a cinematic is probably not doing it many favors in the first place because it's not a cinematic. It's a trailer.
I think more of cinematic denoting like it's pre-rendered and gorgeous and
for sure, definitely.
I believe it or not, I don't actually come here to fight semantics with you.
No. What I mean is, like, I understand because I've heard people saying that they're disappointed with it as well. And I think, someone said, oh, a new cinematic has dropped and you see a trailer. Like, that is going to be slightly disappointing, and so I get it. So I don't think it is semantics. I think it's like I'm explaining why people's expectations haven't been met because cinematic means something different to us as kind of like consumers of WoW now to what it used to. Like a cinematic is Saurfang or like, like the Tyrande Nathanos thing, which this definitely isn't. It's a trailer, and it's a beautiful, awesome trailer, and it's just meant to look cool and introduce kind of a couple of leaders of the Covenants and things like that. And it looked wicked. It looked so good. Well, I would actually probably say that the models that they use in it, although they follow the kind of high fidelity, kind of incredibly high-res CGI style that we're used to, with the exception of one, I don't think they're quite as high quality as something we'd expect from maybe like a Saurfang cinematic. They're not quite as detailed as a Saurfang or as a Gen or as an Anduin or as a Sylvanas or as a Thrall, as a Khan, those characters that we've seen in those kind of cinematics in BFA. Like the Winter Queen, she looks amazing, but it doesn't look quite like the rig is as detailed. And likewise with Syed and Athreus, the one that really kind of jumps out for me is the Jailer, with that still that we'd seen from, because we knew something like this was coming, because we'd seen that picture of the Jailer on the front of the PC Gamer magazine months ago now. So we knew something like that was on its way. And I think a lot of people were hoping for a Saurfang style big bit of narrative, like an old soldier, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to go to bat for these models. I think they look great. I think there's just a difference in kind of, I don't know, the grit between the zones, because I don't know, looking at Bastion and looking at Ardenweald, they do kind of, they almost look like cleaner than something like a Saurfang model or whatever, but I also think it's because of the stylization of not only the zones, but also the races within the zones. Because when you get to Sire Denathrius, or you get to you visit Maldraxians, like, it's gritty. There's some high fidelity texture work going on. Those models look incredible. So I don't know. I think to me, like, the Winter Queen kind of stands out as not looking as up to snuff. But I also think it might just be because she's a more kind of regal and pristine figure compared to something like Saurfang, who honestly looks like he's just been rolling around in the dirt for the last year.
Yeah. I buy that. I buy that totally. Evitel hates the Winter Queen, by the way. She can't stand her.
She looks a little
She's like, I don't dig the Winter Queen. I'm like, why don't you dig the Winter Queen? And she's like, I don't like her flat face. She looks like a Cabbage Patch Kid.
It's kind of the way she, like, so I realize this, audience, I realize predominantly, audio and all that. I love talking about visuals and how you decide to shoot things. And I think it's just the way they decided to, like, kind of frame her here, because we get a very quick wide shot where she, like, and even in the wide shot, she kind of looks shorter, I guess I would say. In the Ardenweald animatic, what the hell were they called this time around? Afterlives. In the Afterlife short, the way they paint her, the way she's illustrated is exceptionally tall, and actually, honestly, kind of lanky. Like, it could almost, it's like somewhere between Tim Burton and Guillermo del Toro, in the way that she's illustrated. And but then in the cinematic, she's very kind of like realistic human proportions, and it just kind of makes her look normal. Like, to me, it looks like someone cosplaying the Winter Queen than the actual Winter Queen.
Cruelty.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it almost looks...
You're just like your friends who you think are idiots.
No, I find this fascinating. I find this
Don't worry, I'm not going to tell your friends that they are idiots, although that's what you said. I'm not going to tell them. They're not going to listen to this show. They're idiots. Apparently, according to you. I don't know. I don't know why you brought it up. But, you know, no, I'd agree with that. She's got incredibly human eyebrows in the trailer.
Well, I mean, those are some long ass eyebrows. I don't know about you, Taliyahs, and I realize we're getting older now, and we're gonna start getting hair in places that doesn't make sense. But neither of our eyebrows are to this length yet.
Dude, my eyebrows are so long and hairy that they're coming out of my nose and ears and bum.
I've got,
because that's just what happens.
Anyone want to tell Taliesin that those aren't eyebrows? No. Okay. Well, moving on.
So yeah, and like I get that, and yeah, actually looking at some stills of it now, like Side and Atheris does look awesome and great, but it's just meant to hype you. It's a hype trailer, isn't it? It's really cool. Like it's just meant to show you like the zones and stuff looking great, and again, we kind of knew that they had this in their back pocket, because have you got the collector's edition for Shadowlands, Garrett?
No, thank you for reminding me of my FOMO.
So I've got 3, and the art book in the one that I've opened, because I haven't even opened 2 of them because I've got 3, and the art book has a lot of the stills that we've now seen from this trailer. So it's got the very high fidelity kind of landscapes of the zones and the zone leaders and things like that. So Red Shirt Guy quite correctly called the fact that, Blizz have got these models. These are obviously all from a cinematic or from cinematics. And what it means is they've now got these models made, so there's no reason why they couldn't pop out a Saurfang style cinematic for them.
Okay, all right. Before you go too much further, you're getting into what was going to be my next comment, which is, what my favorite thing about all of this is, and it's directly related to this podcast?
I don't know.
It's the fact that you and I think on more than one episode, spent quite a lot of time trying to guesstimate what the Saurfang style arc and / cinematics for this expansion would be. And on more than one occasion, we both just came back around. It'll probably be Bolvar, because we have this wonderful Bolvar cinematic. And then after the magazine cover, we were like, maybe Bolvar and the Jailer, because we know they have great Bolvar and Jailer models. And then this trailer drops, and they're like, hold my beer, WoW Killer. Here's cinematic models for every freaking major character in the entire expansion.
Yeah,
I was just cackling watching this through the lens of this very show.
But I mean, the Bolvar model is still there, and honestly, if I had to put money on it, that's still where my money would be. Like, I don't think they are going to do a series like Saurfang, but if they were to, my money would still be on Bolvar as being the focus of it.
I think that's
for
fair.
sure. And that Jailer model is something else as well. That Jailer model is beautiful. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit more of that. Denathrius, don't really have much time for Denathrius, to be fair. Like, he's going to be gone by 9.1. No spoilers.
I do just want to talk about his face, though. It's very similar to, like, you look at Blood Elves in game, and they're pretty, I guess, Botox. They don't have a lot of lines on their face, right? Like, there's not a big delineation. There's not bags under their eyes or forehead wrinkles. But then you look at like a drawing of a Blood Elf, and they're really grizzled. They've got all kinds of lines on their face. They got stubble going on and all that kind of stuff. Same thing here happened with Sire Denathrius, because I look at Sire Denathrius like in game and whatnot. It just kind of looks like a slightly more important Blood Elf. And then the as they've rendered him for this cinematic trailer, dude needs some moisturizer. He's a grizzled looking bastard.
Yeah. Well, that's like the really fun thing about these the high fidelity trailer style cinematics is, and this was the case with Saurfang and all the rest of it, is they are like reinterpretations of the characters in many ways. Because they don't, the other ones use in-game models and in-game effects. One of my favorite things with cinematics like the Tyrande and the Thanos thing is working out what in-game assets they've used and how they've like altered them and changed them. Like I remember with the release trailer, which is in game now. Like I got really excited about Nazgrim's cloak because it's his in-game cloak, but they've 3D'd some of the chains that are on the cloak because it's just like drawn on chains on his cloak, but they've 3D'd them and they've had them swinging around. And I mentioned it in a video, and the animator that did those chains was really pleased. They're like, someone noticed the chains on the cloak. That's amazing. But like that, I really kind of enjoy that kind of thing and noticing like how they've changed the models and how they've kind of, 3Dified them and what they've done to them and what armor sets they're using and what spell effects they're using and what in-game animations they've adapted. And like, I really enjoy that. But these style cinematics are very much like reinterpretations. It's like Ultimate Spider-Man, it's like kind of, reimagining it. It's like you've recast the superhero and you're doing another origin story or something like that. And I always find that like super interesting. It's really cool. And yeah, so to see the Winter Queen kind of reimagining, yeah, it looked a bit like an actor playing her in a way that maybe didn't completely do it for me. Although it's relative because she still looks awesome and she still looks amazing. And it's like, yeah, okay. But and the Side and Athreus one was especially so. And that's something the 2.5D cinematics do as well. I always think that's a really cool thing because it's another reimagining of these characters that we see a lot of. So, and the drawings of them and the portraits of them and how those entire cinematics are put together from paintings, one at a time, rather than kind of fully fledged animations is super interesting to me as well. So that the jailer model for me, I mean, you can tell he's the jailer, right? There's no mistaking it. You're like, oh, it's the jailer, awesome. But he doesn't look anything like his in-game model, really. Like the whole kind of feel you get from that model we saw in that in that trailer is completely different. It's almost like a different character, but just who has the same sort of features and things. And it's great. It's really interesting for me.
Yeah,
and that's why I really want to see characters like Tyrande and Jaina and people like that in these cinematics, because I always want to see what their reimagining is like in this much more kind of sort of realistic setting.
Yeah, it's always something I'm hoping for. Characters that I really care about making their way into a cinematic. But wow, we really never have had Tyrande in. I get gnomes getting the short end of the stick because they always do when it comes to cinematics, but it feels like we should have gotten Tyrande or Jaina by now. But
like for them, the short end of the stick is like normal size, so it's fine.
I see what you did there. Some might call that the low-hanging fruit.
Oh.
Yeah, for me it all comes back around to like this feels very old school Blizzard, and it ties into that damn magazine cover of the jailer because it was just like close up on face, which just to me looks like old Blizzard box art. And so like I'm down for all of this. Not to mention I'm currently on like nostalgia high, going out to freaking Icecrown and doing dailies like it's 2010 all over again. I know everyone seems to be complaining about it, but I am having such a good time.
Oh, and that music's really doing it for me as well. It's great, really good.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yep. It's fantastic. And I actually saw a freaking zombie invasion, even though apparently what didn't come in until Monday. And so that made sense. My favorite thing was the people that waited until it dropped on Monday on Twitter to correct us on Twitter and say it wasn't going to drop until today, like they knew. Yeah,
I know. It's like outrageous lies. All these people pretending they knew it was coming out on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Suck it.
Mm-hmm. I was flying around Stormwind last night. I'm like, oh, I'm safe. I'm flying. Some mother effer on a rooftop as a zombie jumped off.
Oh, nice, clever. I mean, in my experience, and this happens on PTR as well, like the main hub of the invasion in either capital is very much the portal room. Because you will head to the portal room with your zombie buddies, and you've got a guaranteed conveyor belt of people to take down.
That was my near miss. I went to the portal room and a zombie ran right past me. Didn't bother me. I was just like, oh Jesus. I was like, really?
Well, they can only see you if you move.
Okay, so just started. Their vision's based on movement. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's a good thing I crafted some flares as an engineer to throw at a lawyer on a toilet. But
I mean, like, and so yeah, okay. So pre-patch it's not the most scintillating pre-patch of all time, but it's doing some things very well, which is getting players together in the same places and getting them kind of doing things together and just being in the same area as loads of other players, which is always super fun and always one of the things that pre-patch should be about. So yeah, I'm enjoying it just fine. It's great.
Yeah,
I always look forward to logging in, except when it's Bagman. Bagman can eat my shit and hair. I hate him. Oh, I hate Bagman holding onto his bag. And every time I'm there, I'm sitting there with 100 other people. And I'm just singing, "Oh, Mr. Bagman, bring me a bag. Make it the biggest that I ever had. They say you've got one, but I don't know if it's true. I'd like to have it so I don't have to keep on looting you."
Did you spend all morning writing that, or did you just pull that out of your brain?
Yeah. Well, my favorite thing about Bagman is every time I kill Bagman, I never get the bag, obviously. But every time you get Bagman, what you have to do is you have to then /S. I got the bag. So everyone around you thinks you got it. And then you have to put in guild chat, "I got the bag."
Oh yeah, no. My favorite is whatever number you feel like typing, and then X bag for me. That's what you type. Yeah. /say. It's delightful. It's delightful. Yeah, I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Obviously, I'm sure some of this is just my love for Icecrown and everything Arthas. It's just not because like when I think about it, I'm like, this isn't that much different than just doing a bunch of questing out in front of the Dark Portal before Warlords, which is my least favorite pre-patch experience. But it's in front of Icecrown, so I love it because just the setting makes it infinitely better. Plus, that Skybox. Skybox is great. It's great. You know what else is great, Taliesin?
Yes. Sorry again?
You know what else is great?
What's great?
Almost as though I was leading into something. Emails from our listeners.
Nice one.
Emails from our listeners are great. And to remind you folks, you can write into wowkillercast@gmail.com. Kicking us off with the emails today is Velkaya from Lightbringer, which is my original server, Taliesin.
Nice.
My OG.
Is that one of your arsehole friends you don't play with anymore?
Yes. All of my a-hole friends. That is actually when we did our way back ago now, when we did our episode where we both, I believe, told stories about how we left guilds for extremely petty reasons. That's where that guild that I left for extremely petty reasons still resides.
See, I was joking, but it happened. It happened. It was true.
It did. Thank you for putting me in charge of that raid with the terrible people, everyone. I still don't regret leaving you high and dry and going home. But yeah, Valkaya from Lightbringer writes in and says, "Dear Garrett and Taliesin, love the show. Discovered it a week ago. Guess I've been living under a rock. I've now listened to every episode, so curse you for being so entertaining.
Word.
Great job." I started playing WoW.
Some countries use that as a torture method.
Listening to WoW Killer.
Yeah.
I believe that's a scene in new Call of Duty. Right before they waterboard someone, they actually make them listen to WoW Killer for about 40 hours.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I read in a British newspaper that American troops have been in trouble for that in the Middle East. Like, just playing WoW Killer really loud to their prisoners to keep them awake all the time.
They're just like, "Please, for the love of God, put Katy Perry back on."
"Oh, please, Garrett, stop talking about Green Day." Oh.
Anyway, Valkaya continues.
It's fine, but whatever. It goes downhill after that. Like, it's fine. Oh, stop it.
Valkaya continues. I started playing WoW about a year and a half ago, and I am absurdly attached to my Draenei Shaman main because of the deep and meaningful backstory that I've created for her that is definitely not cheesy or cliche in any way. Those are the best character backstories. With her being a resto shaman, I've considered leveling a different class to be more viable in mythic content for my guild. But I cannot bring myself to get invested in another character in the same way I am with her. My question for both of you is, do you have RP/backstory for your characters? And if so, what is it? How has it evolved as new expansions have been released? And has it ever affected the actual way you play the game? Thanks. Make more episodes for me to binge. Well, we're doing just that at this exact moment as we read your email. So your wish is granted, Valkaya.
Wow. From listener to collaborator in the show.
Yes. Thank you for doing our work for us.
Dreams can come true.
So Taliesin, do you have deep? I think this was off air, I believe. As far as the podcast is concerned, before we started the show, you were talking about D&D. So I know you are an avid role player, and I think you've acted before. I can't tell. You only mention it roughly 4 times an episode. Do you have deep, meaningful backstory for your WoW characters?
Nah.
None whatsoever.
I've got a vague backstory for my main character, right? So my main character is Mivamwi. She's my discipline priest, and I don't really have much of a backstory to her. She's vaguely Kultiran, even though she's not a Kultiran human. If they allowed you to have Kultiran humans who weren't restricted to the existing Kultiran model, but like the Kultirans actually in Kultiras.
You mean so small Tyrans? Well.
Sorry?
Small Tyrans?
Yeah, just normal Tyrans. I would make her a race change as Kultiran instantly, because that's where her heart is for sure. So I've got, but I can't do that because then I'd have to change her model currently. And my kind of backstory and my RP value for my main character kind of mostly expresses itself in the way that I can't change how she looks, or her style, really. So I would never race change her, and I would never, like, when all the new human customizations started with pre-patch, all my other characters first stop to the barbershop to get cool new haircuts and cool new facial expressions and beards and jewelry and tails and cool stuff like that, and often being race changed as well. For Mivamwi, couldn't do it. I gave her some new eyebrow. I made her eyebrows a bit more fleek, and that was it. And because you can't change her, she is what she is, and she's my main character. And so that's mostly how my RP expresses itself for her. And I would say I've got maybe kind of a slightly shallower level RP for most of my other characters. In my head, I've got a vague, unspecified, unconcrete idea of their general character and demeanor. Which wouldn't hold up in an intense role-playing situation or anything like that. And I don't role-play in game. So I play on role-play servers because I like watching it happen and things like that. And I like sometimes just coming across it randomly and just walking past it as it's going on. I think that's all really cool. And I like that the shards are bigger on RP servers as well, and the communities are generally thriving. So they're just a good place to play. But I do have a general idea of the characteristics of my characters. Yeah. So it was never any doubt to me that my Horde Shaman would be a Sourfang loyalist, and it was never any doubt to me that my Horde Warlock would be a Sylvanas loyalist. I knew which they would be in BFA. So those decisions kind of made themselves. And I'm not sure if that's going to carry through into Covenant choices in Shadowlands. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But so I've got a very surface level RP backstory for my characters, with the exception of one actually, and that's Brassic, who is my undead rogue. Brassic was originally my Brassic is a British slang term, specifically a London slang term for being skint, for having no money. It comes from Brassic and Lint. It's old Cockney rhyming slang. So when people say they're Brassic, it means they're short on cash. So that's what I called my bank out. And it was a human rogue on Alliance. And I was like, whatever, just started some level 1 character randomly, ran to Stormwind. That was my bank out. And then got a bit bored and race changed her to undead during the Legion invasions. So in my head, my backstory of her was always that she died in the Legion invasions before Legion, and then was brought back as a Forsaken, and then was so annoyed that she'd been killed as a lowly bank out, where she used to wear really cool clothes, in fairness. I invested in that bank alt. And then she kind of decided to hone her craft and level up to max. And now she's pretty badass subtlety rogue. So yeah, that's probably the most in-depth backstory that I've got for a character.
Nice. I'm very similar to you. I kind of have general little thoughts about my characters. Like I'm pretty attached to both of my mains that I don't play anymore. But like my OG mains, so my Night Elf Hunter, that was what I played from vanilla World of Warcraft all the way up through basically until Ulduar, which is when I made the swap to Horde. But kind of like when Katie stopped playing World of Warcraft, I basically kind of stopped playing that character because we played a lot together. So now in my head, they've just kind of retired to Moonglade because Katie was, I remember being stupid excited that she had like this special druid area that she could have a unique hearth to, and she would just make fun of me all the time, like, oh, I need to go to Moonglade something. Do you want to come with me? Oh, wait, you can't get there easily. It's just this in-joke that we had for the longest time while playing together. So I just like to think about them just, putting down roots in Moonglade and just kind of
nice,
settling in. Although we do play every once in a while, she gets a hair and comes back and we'll play together. And that I just think of as our characters got really pissed after Teldrassil was burned. And so in their retirement, they just plot out people they want to go murder for like murder vacations. So
sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my Blood Elf Paladin, which was my other longest running main, I've always, not that I've ever RP'd, but I was in the back of my head of he's a bastard. Like if I role played him, he'd be a total bastard. He'd be like an old school Kael'thas loyalist. They're like, but he'll just go whichever way the wind blows, just because you just stay alive. Which are characters I really like playing in role playing games. Like in our Star Wars role playing game, I love playing ex Imperials, even though everyone's a good guy, just because it's freaking fun to play mean people. So yeah, but like my more recent characters, I don't know. Like I've played humans multiple times, and I think this is part of the reason I think they're boring because I've never come up with backstory for them. But I think I'm going to be going Alliance again here at the beginning of Shadowlands, and so I don't have any hard backstory, but the burning of Teldrassil is just this thing that I find interesting. So I've got all my new 50s are night elves again. Like I have,
and do they have the burn?
Every single one of them. I have 3 fresh new level 50 night elves, and yeah, they've all got the burn. Every single one of them.
Beautiful.
Couldn't decide what the hell I wanted to play, but I think it's happened. I think it has happened. I think I'm going night elf warrior to kick off Shadowlands. But
sounds good. Wow.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Let the Teldrassil fuel me. And I have to say, just think like having that little bit of extra RP in the back of my mind makes playing that character more interesting. Like
I completely agree. And yeah, exactly. You don't have to write it down. You don't have to eloquate it. I'd be surprised if most people aren't on that kind of same sort of level with a lot of their characters that they play in WoW. Is that they wouldn't ever consider it an RP character or anything like that. But I think most people probably have an idea of who their character is and what they're like. Especially if it's a long time character that you play a lot. I mean, I'm saying that maybe people in like Limit and Echo and stuff don't at all, which is why I always get a bit confused when I see names like Big Baller Priest and stuff like that. Not something you get very often on RP servers, obviously, because it's not allowed. But when I see people streaming and stuff, and they play on other servers, and they've got blatant just stupid names, which are incredibly fourth wall breaking and like very meta and sort of. And I just think, I guess maybe you don't have an idea of who your character is, and that's weird to me. I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. Unless you're on RP server, in which case, I will report you. But I ain't no snitch. Do what you want. Plenty of snitches in the RP server is going to do that for me. And, I guess maybe they don't have a vague idea of who their characters are because it is the priest that they are playing so that they, as their third character for the guild, because, just in case they need a backup priest or something like that.
Yeah. I love dumb WoW names. I can't help it, even with characters that have backstories. I mean, my OG main is a freaking Green Day reference, which I've mentioned before. My warrior that I'm playing right now. Do I? I don't know. It doesn't matter. My warrior that
Someone
I'm playing.
Said in the chat earlier that you look like you're from the Linkin Park tribute band, Linkin Estate.
It doesn't help that I haven't shaved and I'm wearing a baseball cap right now.
Also, out of date joke I was thinking was surely every single tribute band from now on. Like if I was going to start a Linkin Park tribute band, it would have the same name as all other tribute bands that I would be in from now on, which is Linkin Total Landscaping.
Just gonna keep going with the total landscaping jokes.
Yeah, it's gonna last forever. It's the best joke ever.
I think VR chat already like got the most out of that joke that anyone possibly could.
Oh, really?
Did you not hear about this?
Okay, well, you're not going to be in my Green Day tribute band, Green Day Total Landscaping, then. That's
okay. I'm my own Green Day tribute band. I am my own tribute band, Taliesin. Where the hell was I going with this? I lost it. I lost my train of thought, and I don't know where I was.
You were just talking about how much you love Green Day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, stupid! Like fourth wall breaking names. My warrior that I'm gonna kick off Shadowlands with. I started this warrior specifically when they added titles to the game, and I found out I could get the Love Fool from the Valentine's meta achievement. And my favorite anime is Fully Cooley, and I just wanted a warrior named Fully Cooley the Love Fool. And it's stupid and it's dumb, but I love that character.
No, but that's not even. That's fine. Okay, like I don't mind that because that's still like a proper name. What I mean is when I mean like literally Josh's second priest or something like that. Like I mean those kind of names. Like
I have a human
King or something like that.
What about I have a human paladin that is named 1/1 because that's what the paladin in Hearthstone spawns on the board. It's a 1/1 human paladin.
Nice. I still think that's quite good because I got names that aren't really names. Like I've got a warlock called Finder, which I think is pretty cool. I've got like a druid called Swiftleaf. I've got a paladin called Gentle Oak. You know, and like those are silly names, but they're names, right? And I've got a Volpera monk called News because
why?
It's a fox. Because it's a fox.
Oh,
and also monks are shit.
Done. Well done.
And you can't trust them.
I'm going to start forwarding the emails that we get to your comments to you because
come at me, bro.
I am already tired of reading the craziest replies.
So yeah, but yeah, there's stuff like XX Big Heels XX. Yeah, totally. That's the kind of name I'm talking about, which I see as being like really weird. So I don't mind like names named after people or whatever like that. Like if I don't see like Mick Jagger and go, oh, what a terrible name. But yeah, something like Big DPS, I would say that's a weird name. And it makes me think that those people don't have a vague idea of who their characters are. If your character is called Big DPS, I'm thinking maybe you're not working on the same kind of approach to playing the game that I do. Maybe
I am so happy that those people exist though, because it reminds me of like my first foray ever into online gaming. Because for me, it was playing Counter-Strike on a dial-up modem, and those were the types of names that existed. It was just these ridiculous, just weirdly bland internet alpha mentality that I find nostalgic and comforting.
Yeah. Oh, one of my old school friends, who is, a successful engineer now and very grown up and owns a house and has a family and, has been married for like 15 years and just is one of the most grown up and responsible human beings that I know, still occasionally emails out from his rathergoodsex@hotmail.com address.
Rather good sex?
Yeah, because like British. No one used their name in Hotmail like email addresses at the time. Like I think my original Hotmail account was something like doobie@hotmail.com, like something like that.
Mine was Cheese Man.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought the word cheese was funny because I was freaking 12 years old when I got my first AIM account. That was my first online handle, was Cheese Man.
Wow.
Did not stick with it.
That's so cool.
Eventually I graduated to Green Day references and now I'm 30. But one day I woke up and I'm 33 and nothing has changed.
Do you like Green Day?
Thalanus from US Thrall writes in, says, hey guys, leveling up my new main in prep for Shadowlands and catching up on your back catalog of episodes. I thoroughly enjoy listening to Taliyahs Banter and that guest he seems to have on a lot. I think it's Gar. or something, smiley face. Looking at the new zones and characters we will meet in Shadowlands, it seems like there is some real opportunity for new allied races to be introduced to one or both factions. Which of the new races do you think would be most exciting to, or would you be the most excited to get as an allied race, and why is it Revendreth vampires? All right, Thalanis, I'm gonna chide you for a second. Just 1 second. There's two things in this world that absolutely drive me nuts. One is double spacing in emails. You passed. You passed. You passed. You didn't do that. But the other is ending a question with, and why is it insert thing here? That's it. That drives me nuts. But you're also right. I would want Revendreth vampires more than anything else as a playable allied race. So as much as I want to chide you, because I can't stand it when people do that, you're also correct. That's the only answer.
What if the question is, what is like the trashiest yet also strangely sexiest tattoo a person can have, and why is it insert thing here?
Why is it Tinkerbell on your lower back?
No, why is it insert thing here?
Oh, I get it. I missed it in time. I missed the joke. I missed it. Taliesin, no.
I had a friend who had her ex-husband's name tattooed on her lower back once, and her ex-husband's name was Joe, Joe.
I'm glad that it was once. I'm glad that you specified she had it tattooed on her lower back once as opposed to twice or three times.
Yes. And I was like, you could have saved yourself some hassle just by having a J on one buttock and an E on the other. Didn't see her again.
Now I want to regale you with stories of figure drawing classes and all of the awesome tattoos that were on our models.
I'm sure.
But we won't go there.
Sorry, you definitely should answer this question now.
Yeah. If they've pretty much taken any hope of getting an allied race out of any of the covenants away from us. But
have they? Why?
Didn't they basically tell us no? Am I misremembering that?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Maybe.
I could have sworn. I don't remember. I have no quote that I remember off the top of my head or who said it, but I could have sworn that they kind of walked that back.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Well, no, I'm going to let you answer this question. Sorry. Go on. Do your thing. Go on.
No. I mean, my answer is I would like the Venthyr to be an allied race because they're freaking vampires, and seeing as if I were to RP my Blood Elf characters, I would be role-playing them as essentially Victorian vampires. Can I just have my Victorian vampire playable race, please?
Yes. Sounds good. Makes sense.
Also, like all of the gnome Feratus out there could just go and be actual Nosferatus.
Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about this recently. And, thinking about Shadowlands as an expansion and where the story might be going and things like that. Now, obviously, you know what I think. I think we're going to end up going into like a transdimensional cosmic disco war, right?
Because Taliesin is always right. I've learned not to bet against Taliesin. Yeah,
totally. But I've also been thinking, there's been a lot of talk about the machinery of death breaking and the dismantling of the machinery of death, and the jailer and his followers keep saying stuff like death comes for the soul of your world and what have you. And, I don't think this is going to happen, but it's a possibility that Shadowlands ends with the whole notion of death in the universe changing. Like, what if, one of the things that happens in the storyline of Shadowlands, like I said, I don't think this is going to happen, but, what if death kind of ceases to exist as we know it at the end of Shadowlands? And what if the Shadowlands, to all intents and purposes, and its function ceases to exist? Okay, so like, the jailer is bad and must be defeated, but at the same time, and we've seen this in some of the zones and things already, people rethinking their purpose and their path and what have you. At the same time, they're like, okay, well, death needs to kind of change a little bit. We need to change this up a little bit. And, we need to learn. And, like, death isn't what it used to be, fam. This isn't your daddy's death. This is like a whole different Shadowlands now. We're gonna mix it up and change it up. Suddenly, you have got all of these Covenant people who don't need to be in the Shadowlands anymore. And what if, suddenly you got all these Kyrian who are like, well, we've got no souls to tend for anymore. And you got all these Venthyr who are like, well, we've got no one to kind of try and save anymore. And you've got all of these Necrolords like, well, we've got nothing to defend anymore. And you've got all these Fawns being like, well, we've got no one to tend anymore. And well, we might as well go traveling, right? We might as well sort of go out into the world and the universe and see what's what. And why wouldn't some of them come to Azeroth? And wouldn't that be an ideal way to have them as allied races after Shadowlands?
They essentially become nomadic. Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of the Draenei all over again, but with a ton of new races. It wouldn't make sense. That'd be a pretty big reach. I don't know. I think I'm with your opening statement of I don't think this is what's going to happen, but it would be cool if. Yes, I don't think that's going to happen, but it would also be cool. At the same time, I mean, in the Maldraxxus Afterlife short, we see denizens of Maldraxxus visiting mortal realms.
Quite right. But I mean, they live and work in Maldraxxus. And so there's that thing of, there is an RP element whereby if your player character was a Maldraxian, it would be really weird to be leveling a Maldraxian through Azeroth at level 10 or whatever, if they were an ally. That would be
extremely strange. But we have new leveling where you can just
I guess so. But I mean,
the Shadowlands and go.
So I mean, my gut feeling is that we won't get them as allied races. But there are ways that you could swing it so that it could happen.
It's World of Warcraft. I mean, I know WoW is known for being extremely precious about its lore reasoning behind allied, bringing certain races playable into the game. But I could see a way where they might be able to justify us playing as Shadowlands races.
It is an intergalactic disco war. So what if Shadowlands allied races started at 50? What if they were like hero allied races? And so they started at 50. And so you were straight into Shadowlands content and Disco War content. So like it wouldn't be so law breaking then. Like if you were a new Maldraxian who has been drafted in to help the heroes from Azeroth go off onto their intergalactic disco war to fight the forces of the light or of nature or of the arcane or whatever, and that would make a lot more sense. Then it's just the whole leveling through Azeroth thing and leveling through the history and what have you.
I'm just picturing the scene from Endgame with all the portals opening up and 4 of them are Shadowlands areas.
Well, I mean, and also whatever Shadowlands areas we go to by the end of the expansion, because it's not going to be restricted to the 4 or 5, I would say, that we have at the moment. Guaranteed we're going to find our way to different areas throughout the course of Shadowlands, wherever those areas may be, like Hellia's house for a start. If like we're going to be doing something about Hellia. I would be very surprised if we didn't go to the Broker Zone, where they're from. And I dare say there's like some big surprises in there as well. So, I mean, they've got ample opportunity with Shadowlands. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point there was something like those Legion scenarios, where you like go to a Legion world and do little scenarios on the Legion world in groups and things, and there'd be different worlds. There's like the forest world and there's like the lava world and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we just get glimpses of other like gabillions of Shadowlands zones in that sense as well. I think
we're gotta see some other lands just in this expansion. I'm sure through 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 patches. So
Nogga has a really good idea in the chat. You don't start a character. You can't start a new allied race of that character, but you can start a character as a different race. And when you get to 50 and you go through Shadowlands, you can convert them to a Venthyr or to a Maldraxxus.
You go on a death quest for your character. Your character dies and becomes a Covenant race. Yeah. Oh, that is so delightful.
That's sick, isn't it?
Oh,
that's cool.
Excuse me a moment. I'm going to go queue up the Black Parade.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
I like it. And I'm going to take it. And like the thing is, right, I'm, I like Nulgar a lot and they're always on my stream and stuff, but I'm probably a bit more famous than Nulgar. So I'm going to take that idea and basically just pretend like it's mine. And if I just say it enough, everyone will think it was my idea. And then they'll be like, wow, did you see Taliesin's amazing idea? It was so good. Have you seen this joker Nulgar who keeps telling everyone it was their idea? Trying to ride on Tally's coattails.
I can't wait for your video that starts with "This changes everything," and then you pitch this idea. It's going to be great. Tally changes everything with a stolen idea from his chat room.
And then Bellybar makes the same video, and because he's more famous than me, everyone thinks it's his idea, and like we become another layer removed from Nulgar. Sorry, Nulgar.
But you have to wait through a genitalia shaving ad first.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
Yeah,
be a good time. Hit me up, Manscaped. I would love to be sponsored by you. Selenor.
Manscaped has never made a razor big enough for me. Because I've got massive balls, Garrett. I haven't.
Okay, I thought you were going the other direction, and then I was going to make a comment about. I don't think that portion of you should be the hairiest part, and if so, never mind. Doesn't matter. We're gonna move on. And I apologize to whichever email I randomly placed to follow this terrible bit. So Selenor, I'm sorry. Selenor writes in and wants to know if Blizz fudged the storytelling in Pandaria.
In Pandaria?
In Pandaria, yeah. We're visiting another expansion. We're time walking right now, Taliesin. Selenor writes in and says, "Dear WoW killers, Taliesin and Garrett." That is exactly what we are, yes. Most of my complaints with WoW have centered on fudged storytelling as seen in BFA. I have a theory about Jaina's role in Pandaria originally having been much larger and then ceding to Anduin. A big deal is made out of the White Pawn being on a ship to Stormwind after the destruction of Theramore. My theory is that originally the White Pawn was supposed to be Jaina. Her being chased by the Horde would introduce so much anguish to Pandaria, Jaina setting just one foot on land single-handedly, or should I say single-footedly, reawakening the Shah. The rest of the expansion would be seated on Pandaren and Jaina both being unable to process the trauma and rage afflicted upon them by genocide, with Pandaren refusing all negative emotion and Jaina insisting on them. This ended up being used in BFA instead. They ended up changing this plan to set up Anduin. They realized Varian would die and Anduin wouldn't play a role in WoD. They commissioned Christy Golden to explain Jaina's rage and drive, but fudged some of Pandaria's storytelling. I'd like to know your thoughts on this. If this email ends up being too long, I wouldn't mind an episode just planned out on stories. I love the idea of being like, hey, if this is too long, just do an entire episode about this. With kind regards, Selenor, warrior diplomat of Sylvanas. We both have talked about how it seemed a little weird that Jaina kind of just disappeared. Yeah. After seemingly having a pretty major character turn post Theramore. So I did find this a little interesting. I think this strikes me as a little reaching.
It wouldn't surprise me if in the conceptual stage of Mists, and I mean like literally sitting around a table chucking ideas around, if that was something that they played with, and they knew that they were going to destroy Theramore because it was one of the ways they were going to make Garrosh into the baddie that they needed him to be, and they decided already that this was going to happen. They were like, well, that makes perfect sense. Like, then Jaina's going to be really angry, and that's something she carries through into Warlords of Draenor. And it's about and maybe like us learning how to deal with the Shah of Anger and kind of soften it and control it is kind of reflected in her journey and things like that. I don't think and that wouldn't surprise me at all if that conversation had happened, for sure. But I don't think, looking at the way Miss plays out, it doesn't seem to me like if they did have that idea, it ever kind of made it past the very kind of early conceptual stages. Because like that, for me, Anduin's story in Mists is very much written for Anduin and with him in mind, and there is space made for him in that story to have that told. We know that Rathian came later. We know that Rathian was like a relatively late addition to it all, and relatively, like, he was there in the alpha and beta, but like in the kind of story planning process, it was relatively late, I think. But yeah, of course, Rathian appeared really in Cataclysm for the first time, didn't he? With all the rogue stuff. But yeah, I get it. I feel like someone would have probably come up with a quite good point if they ever did have that idea, that if they did make Jaina their kind of embodiment of the danger of anger and revenge and what have you in Mists, it was going to be her that ended up being the final boss, not Garrosh. And, they talk a lot about how they like to weave characters in and out of the narrative. And yeah, I think it is weird how we never got much momentum with the whole Jaina thing until it came to BFA and the kind of resolution of it in that way. But I'm not sure there was ever meant to be more of it in Mists.
Yeah, I find Jaina just so fascinating, and the lack of Jaina at during basically 2 expansions where it felt like she should have been front row center.
Yeah.
Just because Garrosh was the big bad for 2 freaking expansions and he had just decimated Jaina's world.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
And she got some. In like secondary media and stuff, she got some like really good beats. She was gonna like drown Orgrimmar, man. She was all like, "Yeah, I'm gonna totally destroy this entire city. Let's do it," and then just didn't. Like she's one of those characters that so many people relate to and like. It's almost like you almost don't have to include her in the game so much because she's always going to be there anyway, because she's someone kind of like Illidan in that sense. Like Illidan and Arthas and people like that, they're constant fixtures of WoW, not because they're actually in the game or in the narrative, but because they're characters that people like and talk about, and Jaina is always there. To answer the question, I wouldn't be surprised if they talked about Jaina in those terms when they were conceptualizing the story of Mist, but I don't think it was. So I think that the faction war in BFA was kind of crowbarred in or made much more prominent than it was originally planned to be when they decided that Sylvanas needed to be a baddie in Shadowlands and they need to get her there. I think that BFA was conceptualized as the Ashara N'Zoth expansion, and that was going to be the main thrust of it much more than it ended up being, because all the beats and stuff were in place, all the zones and stuff were in place. It was just kind of taken out of the narrative a little bit. And I think they kind of wanted to make the faction war bigger so they could push the Sylvanas storyline more once they realized that Shadowlands was coming and they needed her in place. I don't think Jaina disappearing from Mists is that. I don't think it's comparable to that. I think it's fair that a character needed a bit of time to get over what happened to her and not be so central. And also, you wouldn't want to see it played out in one expansion either. Like, Jaina is such an important character. Like, the thing with Jaina is, it's like, we don't need to do this in one expansion. We don't need her to go through this journey in one expansion. Like, it's Jaina. She's going to be around. She's going to be in every expansion we do in some capacity. People say she's not in Legion, but I mean, she is at the beginning when she gets all angry and goes away. So like she is in Legion. Even then,
makes an ice bridge. That's it.
Yeah. Ice bridge was awesome. And then but she has like a really nice scene in the throne room where she yeets out of there, and it's really good. Like it's really good.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not refuting that. It just it just feels like she should have had more of a proper arc in either Pandaria or Draenor because of Garrosh still being such a figure. And I'm still focused on Pandaria, and it kind of ties into Selenor here because, like, I'm not so sure that Anduin wasn't always kind of one of the big foils leading into Pandaria, but Anduin also has always had a strong connection with Jaina. She helped raise him, and so I'm wondering if maybe there wasn't just more of a tie there, because really, the only part of Jaina that stands out to me in Pandaria is when she showed up on Thunder Isle, but that was still very brief.
Well, I mean, she's in the Siege of Orgrimmar as well. Like, I mean, she's with us at the Siege of Orgrimmar. If you're an Alliance player, she's at the docks when you get there, and she's part of the Galcron fight, and she's part of the big group of people that's always running with you, and all the way through.
Yeah, but you said it right there. She's part of the big group of people. It just kind of
exactly. But like, she's not the leader of the Alliance, so what else could she be? Like, she's not going to go, okay, guys. Like,
she
let's
could
go. I'm leading this expedition, because Varian would go, no, Jaina, you're not, because I am also here. And so, like, she is part of the, she doesn't back out from the fight. She takes the fight to Garrosh with the Siege of Orgrimmar with the rest of us, like, as much as any other character does. And so, I mean, it's not like she nopes out. It's not like she disappears. She's there. So, like, she plays a part in bringing Garrosh down.
Yeah.
And then she's by Varian's side to try and convince him to dismantle the Horde in the end cinematic. So it's not like
I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just saying, like, it just felt like, I don't know. I guess the scene we very recently got with Tyrande and Nathanos, like, I was kind of expecting something of that nature with Garrosh. So a little more fanfare, something a little more.
Dude, there's only you can only get kill stolen by one major character at a time. Okay, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you face off with Garrosh in Warlords of Draenor, and then Thrall comes along and he's like, no, I'm gonna Mat Gora, and that's fine. And then he's just about to zap Garrosh with his cheating lightning hand, and then Jaina jumps in and she's like, no, Thrall, back off, this one's mine. And then she's about to drown him with like a big wave, and then Bane jumps in and he's like, no, he killed my father, I'm taking this kill. And then Illidan jumps in and he's like, I don't know what's going on, I heard someone's gonna get killed, this is my job, I'm gonna do it, back up. And then
Uther's ghost shows up and says, I love justice.
Yeah.
I'm just here for the justice, everyone.
And we're just sitting there going, who's doing this kill? Can we just
I think really what we've ended on is Garrosh pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who it would have made sense to deal the killing blow to Garrosh. That is fair. I don't, like, my point is, like, I don't disagree with anything you've mentioned, and I completely understand and am aware of the uses of Jaina across all of the things we just mentioned. It's still just, but I could also see there having been a little bit more of her through line. I don't think it's bad. The only thing I think is bad is, like, Draenor is in this, and we're just talking about an expansion that didn't land well for me in general. But yeah, I'm with you. And frankly, I think kind of Jaina taking a bit of a sub role throughout multiple expansions really, like, helped BFA land, because I think you and I both agree that Jaina's story in BFA is a big highlight of the expansion, of an expansion that has, I think, a lot of very warranted criticism. The leveling stories, I think, for both the Alliance and the Horde are great, and I would say, if I had to tip my hat to one of the two to be better, I actually prefer the Alliance story that's being told, because it's just so rad to see where they picked up Jaina and see that journey that she goes on throughout BFA.
Well, exactly. And you bring up an important point there, which is that, if a character disappears from the narrative, it's not always because Blizzard are lazy and they can't be bothered, like, expanding on a character's story, and or they have no ideas. Like, that happens for narrative effect as well, and in fantasy a lot. It happens a lot in fantasy. The characters disappear for ages and come back, and they're very different. And think about it. If Jaina hadn't kind of played a non-existent role in Warlords of Draenor, pretty much, and a very kind of subdued and early finishing role in Legion, would Daughter of the Sea have been as cool? Would her grand entrance back on the scene have been anywhere near as impactful and exciting? Like, if she'd been a major part in Legion and Wars of Draenor, and then Daughter of the Sea came out, you'd be like, oh, Jaina's doing stuff again, like she has been for the last 2 expansions. Like, part of the excitement of it is the return of this character, and we have been wondering where she is and what she's been doing. And like, now she's wearing a hood, and it's all kind of scary, and it's like, beware of me, awesome. And then she rocks up in the Battle of Lordaeron, and she's in a flying, emotional, psychological ghost galleon with arcane cannons, and it's just awesome. And you're like, what? Hang on, wait, what? And then you are ready for a Jaina-centric storyline for a whole expansion, or for first half an expansion. And yeah, I mean, there is a narrative reason for leaving people out as well, is because you want it to mean something when they come back. And yeah, totally.
I don't disagree with anything you said.
And you never do. That's why I like you. That's why I keep having you on this show.
Horrendously untrue. Sylvanas is bad and you know it. All right. So, expansion comes out next week. And I saw that Sylvanas is how I'm going to choose to pronounce this, wrote in and had some thoughts about Arthas versus Jailer and their personalities and motivations. And I thought this would be a great way to kind of cap off this mailbag episode as we go into expansion week.
Sounds good.
Sylvanas says, greetings, Taliesin. I love your podcast and your regular guest, Garrett. While doing ICC again, since why not, I was enjoying the absolute evil of the Lich King. Be honest, Sylvanas, you were still trying to get invincible and it hasn't dropped. Be honest. I was enjoying the absolute evil of the Lich King. He delivers a top-tier monologue. Then after the helm comes off, we get Arthas clutching for his father. Is it over? He asks, free from the Jailer's influence and able to speak using his own words instead of the Jailer's words that were booming shortly before. That's a bit of a reach. We know Nerzul's portion was in the corner. Seriously, the Arthas book. I know, I'll read it eventually. But we never knew how much outside influence was coming from the Lich King. I don't think Arthas wanted to conquer Azeroth. I think the Jailer did. I'm wondering how much Arthas will have been along for the ride versus he himself wanting to conquer. I'm torn on whether I would love or hate this. Thanks again, Taliesin. I'm glad you booked such great guests.
Yeah, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, I mean, okay, Arthas fanboy who's never read the Arthas novel. What's your opinion on this question? Hey, Garrett, do you know who my favorite band is?
Actually,
Green
don't.
Day.
Oh, was it Green Day?
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard Dookie, but they're my favorite band.
I'm
when I first met Evitel, she was like, I'm the world's biggest Alan Rickman fan. I love Alan Rickman so much. And I was like, yeah, I love him in Prince of Thieves. And she's like, I've never seen Prince of Thieves. I'm like, you're not allowed to call yourself an Alan Rickman fan if you've never seen Prince of Thieves. You've still never seen Prince of Thieves.
What an example to pull. I can't even continue the bit because I'm just thinking of Prince of Thieves being the movie you went with.
What? Hang on. It's the best Alan Rickman performance in any movie. What are you talking about?
The best part of that horrendous film, for sure.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
it's still a horrendous film.
Could you really call you? Yeah, okay, but could you call yourself an Alan Rickman fan if you hadn't seen
Die Hard?
Like, what is a monument? Like, imagine that you are like, oh, I really like Alan Rickman, but I won't bother watching this film that everyone says he's amazing in.
When people cannot remember the name of
this movie everyone loves him in.
When people cannot remember the name of Alan Rickman, the actor, they do not go, Robin Hood villain. They go Hans Gruber. They start snapping their fingers. They look away as they start the thing. They go Hans Gruber, guy from Die Hard.
No, they don't. They go, oh, I'm gonna take your heart out with a spoon. That's what they say. That guy.
Maybe I'm just in the Christmas spirit. Maybe that's it. I'll just agree to disagree. So
sorry. Anyway, I know you won't be able to cite the Arthas book.
It doesn't matter if I can cite the Arthas book or not, because I know for a fact the Arthas book doesn't say a damn thing about the Jailer, and that's where the crux of my skepticism around this email comes from. And it's and Selenor, this all comes from a place of like being interesting and just wanting to have like a nerdy deep dive into your thoughts here. I'm not trying to do a takedown or anything. But I want to preface this with I don't use the term retcon in like a negative fashion. I use it for lack of a better shorthand term to kind of describe going back to something and fleshing it out more or adding onto it. I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. What someone might call retcon in a negative fashion, I'm like, whatever. Like, stories evolve over time, especially with something like an MMO. It is what it is. So if they want to go back and reintroduce and flesh out exactly how the jailer's what type of relationship the jailer had with Arthas while he was the Lich King, I'm down with that. In fact, I'm frankly curious about it. But I think the best types of retcon, or let's just call it the best types of revisiting of things we think we already know the story behind, are when you work around what's established and instead of kind of brute forcing a new understanding. And I think that's kind of when you end up with people being like, nah, they just retconned it, and you end up with this changes everything, YouTube thumbnails. So I would like them to not just be like, oh yeah, the jailer and Arthas, there was a red phone in the back of Icecrown. Arthas would pick it up and say, hey jailer, what am I doing this week? Like, I hope that's not where they take it. I hope that Arthas, like, they kind of, you know how we've been going back and forth about how whether or not it would be horrible or the best thing ever if Arthas had a redemption arc. And I'm kind of, I could go either way. And I come back to the best of hot takes, which is, as long as it's good, I'm down with it. That's what everyone loves to hear. That's what they're coming here for. The thing I would be the most excruciatingly angry about is if they were just like, oh yeah, Arthas had no control at all. Lich King was just a pawn of the jailer. I would just be like, F everything about this. Yeah. I'm out.
I agree.
I'm out. Because you know how I think one of the lamest ways to make your big bad a big bad, make him have been calling all the shots for the previous big bad.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's just such an out that I'm just uninterested in. And so
I completely agree. And like the whole point of the whole thing that makes Arthas tragic is that, you know, it's not a tragedy unless you play a part in your own downfall, right?
Yeah, he opted into his downfall.
Yeah, like that's kind of like the definition of tragedy in the dramatic sense. And like, yeah, absolutely. And I think I don't imagine they will detract from that too much. To answer it in the speculative nature in which I think it was asked, the question, for me, it all comes down to Dreadlords. So we know that...
Doesn't it always with you, Taliesin?
Yeah. Well, for me, the Dreadlords kind of supplied the Legion with the Helm of Domination and the Lich King armor, right? Which is very important. So for me, the question, and it looks like, you know, it was the jailer that made those things or acquired those things and decided, you know, like, so for me, it depends on where the Dreadlords figure in this. Were the Dreadlords stealing the stuff from the Shadowlands for the Legion? Or, and you know, maybe there was like a knock-on effect where the jailer had some kind of communication with Arthas as a residual thing, kind of unintended. Or are the Dreadlords a much more active part of the Shadowlands, and did the jailer use the Dreadlords to get those things out into the world? And the Legion were just kind of willing to go with it. And like, for me, it's a big question on how duplicitous didn't say that word right, but you know, like the role of the Dreadlords in all of this. And I made a video quite a long time ago now about it, in speculating about who the Dreadlords even are, you know, and how Sire Nathrius certainly looks like a Dreadlord. His name is Nathrius. He lives in Castle Nathria, which is a bit like the Nathrazim who come from Nathreza, right? I mean, you know, there's certainly, and they look very similar, although he uses the male Draenei rig. Like, a lot of people think he looks like a Dreadlord model, you know? And if you put them on an evolutionary scale, he works as the middle missing link between the jailer and the Dreadlord. You know, he's got things in common with the way the jailer looks, and he's got things in common with how Dreadlords look. He's kind of like halfway on the scale between the two. So maybe the jailer is like the original kind of proto Dreadlord, and Sidanathris is along the evolutionary scale, not evolutionary as in getting better, obviously evolutionary isn't just changing, scale towards what the Dreadlords are now. And it's fascinating, and it's a really good part of the expansion where you can be it's a really fun part of the expansion before these questions are answered, because these questions are going to get answered. You know, like in this expansion, 100%, we're going to know exactly what was going on with Helm of Domination. We're going to know exactly the jailer's plan and the role of the Dreadlords in it, and how much knowledge the Legion had about it, and things like that. We're going to learn all of that, but this point before that is super exciting, and it all comes down to the Dreadlords for me. So yeah, it's really interesting. And like, what did the jailer do that made the other Eternal Ones jail him? You know, they talk about a great betrayal and the reason why he fell and was given the shit job of looking after the Maw and being the jailer. And we see in the cinematic trailer that came out this week being all chained up in that. You know, we see the jailer in the past because he ain't chained up right now. And very interestingly, in the cinematic trailer where he is all chained up, much like the Rune Carver is when we find him in game, the person who makes all the legendaries, we don't see the jailer's chest. We don't see if the jailer has got a hole in his chest like his current model does. So again, there's that question. We know that Arthas ripped out his own heart because he's such an edgelord. And could that be a parallel with the jailer as well? You know, everyone's like, wow, who ripped out the jailer's? What did the jailer have in his chest, and why did they rip it out? And I'm always thinking, like, what did the jailer rip out of his chest? What did he have in his chest that he didn't want there, that he ripped out? So yeah, like all these questions, which I can't wait to be answered, and looking forward to kind of the narrative beats giving me those answers. But I'm with you. I don't want it to have been the jailer literally pulling the strings all along. I don't want it to be the jailer whispering in Arthas's ear. Although, like, the idea of the jailer and the Dreadlords tricking the Legion would be quite fun. I'd find like a lot of entertainment in that, and you know, that would be fun. Yeah, I think the Dreadlords are deeply involved with the jailer. Maybe to the extent where, you know, we know in the original WoW lore it was the Nathrazim that drove Sargeras mad, and that still kind of can be read in the revised Chronicle lore, in that it was encountering the Nathrazim and what they told him that kind of drove Sargeras over the edge, when they told him about the Void. They told him about the Void Lords. And the Dreadlords are, they got their fingers in like every kind of cosmological pie that you can think of, apart from life and nature magic. You know, they pop up everywhere. There's a light forged Nathrazim. You know, they know loads about the Void. They're clearly very involved in the Shadowlands. Like, their role in the Legion is very famous. You know, the only other race in the Warcraft like lore and universe which has that much mastery over so many different kind of parts of the cosmological chart is us. And whatever character you're playing, like whatever character is the character that you're playing, like those are the only other like races that have that kind of contact with those things. So like, yeah, the Dreadlords are fascinating to me, and I'm really looking forward to getting some more Dreadlord lore, and like anything that takes Dreadlords beyond the Legion, because I think it's quite clear that they have always been more than that. And I want to find out what happened to Nathreza. I wouldn't be surprised if we go to Nathreza. Maybe that's going to be the final 9.3 zone. Let's go to Nathreza, because we blew it up. Illidan blows it up in the Illidan novel, but we know it still exists because in the Portal Keeper Hazabel fight in Antorus, she opens a portal to Nathreza and someone comes out of it, doing all kind of shadow magic and stuff. So even though it's been blown up, we know it's still there, and we know it's like enveloped in shadow and stuff now.
Well, what if it's a portal to just like a single piece of floating rock, and that's all that's left, and that was the one demon that still lived?
Could be totally, yeah. But I mean, there is something that is referred to as Nathreza, and which the Legion felt the need to keep a portal like network open to, and things like that.
I think
it still has incredibly powerful Dreadlords on it.
Yeah. I mean, everything you just mentioned is such a big part of the reason I'm excited about Shadowlands. Is like we're really kind of going into uncharted territory. Like there's a lot of freedom for where the lore can go from here, because we don't know a lot about what we're about to step into next week, and where it's going to go, and this is where I kind of go. This is where I would like them to really kind of let Arthas be and not try and spend too much time trying to explain things with that. Let Jailer be his own character, and let's really explore where the hell he came from and get into this crazy cosmological lore of World of Warcraft that we really haven't tapped into since the end of Legion. I feel like we kind of took a expansion off, and in BFA focused a lot more on kind of problems here and now on Azeroth itself. Obviously, like if there's one thing that is an actual arc of BFA, as much as the story is kind of here and there, it's like we're concerned with the planet and the immediate threats on Azeroth itself. And now it's time, we're going to Shadowlands. As you said, there's something going on with Dreadlords. We're not sure what it is. Let's see where that takes us. And let's get really weird and wild and high fantasy and kind of universe and existence spanning instead of just world spanning.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
New lore is exciting.
Really question either, to be fair, but like it does just make me thirsty for the new lore.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, it's.
I hope, like I say, I hope it's not that Arthas was having like daily debriefs with the jailer inside his helmet every day, and you like to think that Arthas's kind of path was his own choice and his own decisions that were doing that.
Yeah, don't Star Wars prequel it. I don't need to know about his daily Senate meetings.
Yeah. The reason I chose you, Arthas, is because of your unusually high levels of mitochondria that you have in your blood.
Did you say mitochondria?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone who wrote in. Some great thought-provoking emails. Keep them coming. wowkillercast@gmail.com. Keep in mind, Monday the expansion drops. So let us keep that in mind. I don't know what's going on my camera today. It keeps dying on me. Anyways, video viewers, enjoy the black void that is me for the end of this. Keep the emails coming to wowkillercast@gmail.com. Let us know how Shadowlands is going for you. We're going to be in dire need. We're going to be in dire denathrius need of post Shadowlands launch topic emails. So send them in.
We'll be playing WoW live when we record the next episode. I wouldn't wonder.
Yeah.
Maybe. I imagine it'll probably happen.
We'll see how that pans out. But send them in, wowkillercast@gmail.com. Taliesin, if folks are somehow unaware of the delightful World of Warcraft content that you are making outside of this podcast itself, where can they find you?
They can find us on YouTube at Taliesin and Evitel Do Games. They can find us on Twitch at Taliesin and Evitel. And they can find us on Twitter at Taliesin Evitel. What about you, Garrett? Where can I find you?
In a black void. No, I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. GARRETT Art. Trust me, I know how to spell art. amove.tv for this podcast and every single other one that I produce. There's there's a few things happening in Hearthstone this week, like a new expansion, a new battle pass system, and lots more. So you should probably go subscribe to The Angry Chicken and hear all about all of the insanity that's coming down in the world of Hearthstone. But just go to amove.tv. Awesome. You'll see all my podcasts. But thank you for listening, everybody. Also, huge thanks to Andrew Allen for our outro music. You should go check out his work over at andrewallenmusic.com. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Enjoy the launch, everybody. We'll talk to you real soon. But until next time, good luck and have fun.